Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's questions and answers. So here's our first question. Are there some simple exercises to help me relax? We've practiced a number of these exercises before, and a lot of them affect the vagus nerves that go down on each side of the throat, from the brain through the throat down to the gut, where they greatly influence the autonomic nervous system. In fact, all of our Rosicrucian exercises that help us to relax affect the autonomic nervous system. And these are the systems that function without us consciously controlling them. So this would be respiration and circulation, digestion, things that there's a system that takes care of all of those functions for us. And when we experience stress, our sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and this triggers the fight or flight response. So if our system senses any kind of a threat or stress, it starts kicking in activities to help us function with that. So it may dilate our pupils, raise our heartbeat, cause us to breathe faster. So it's all to help us prepare to face a threat of some kind. And it can be the simplest kind of threat. The vagus nerve is a key part of the parasympathetic nervous system, and it helps to counteract these effects, promoting a state of calm and relaxation. And when the vagus nerve is activated, again, these nerves go from the head down through the throat and to the gut. It slows down the heart rate, promotes digestion, and helps regulate the immune system. And there are many ways that we can help to tone the vagus nerves. We're going to practice some of those now. So we can sing, and we can intone vowel sounds, or we can hum. Put your hand on your throat right now and just hum, just gently, just hum a little bit. And you can feel the vibration on your fingertips as the air goes through our esophagus there. And then the vagus nerves are on each side there. So singing, humming, and toning vowel sounds all stimulate the vagus nerves. And we're going to practice this now. So just sit comfortably, close your eyes, and in a moment, we're going to take a deep breath, and then we're going to hum for 20 seconds. And if you run out of air before the 20 seconds, no problem. Just take another deep breath in. So I'm going to set my timer here. Okay. All right. So take a big breath. And when you exhale, hum. Just keep going, humming. Feel the vibration in your throat. Have 5 more seconds. Okay, and stop. So we'll do this again. Deep breath. And now when you exhale, hum. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. Deep inhalation. And on the exhalation, hum. 5 more seconds. Okay. So this very simple exercise stimulates the vagus nerves and helps the whole autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in and for us to relax. There's another technique that we can use to have the same effect, and this is to tug on our earlobes. The vagus nerve goes up into, it's by the brain, and there are two little extended nerves that go into the earlobes. And when we just tug down on them like 10 times on each side, that helps to stimulate the vagus nerves. So just do that for a moment. Okay. So now we're going to do a breathing exercise. And this one is called the physiological sigh. So what we're going to do is breathe in, and even though it will feel like your lungs are completely full, you're going to breathe in again. And this creates more room for the heart, and then the heart slows down, the heartbeat slows down. And then when you will exhale slowly through the mouth. And this will relax the diaphragm that's here under the ribs, and this will help you to relax. So we're going to do this 3 times. And you can do this with your eyes open or closed, whatever's most relaxing for you. So take in a deep breath. And even though it feels like your lungs are full, a little bit more, and then a slow exhalation through your mouth. All right, we're going to do that again. Deep inhalation, a little bit more, and then a long exhalation through your mouth. Okay, one more time. Deep inhalation, a little bit more, and a long exhalation through your mouth. Just close your eyes and focus on your regular breathing. Now, another technique we can use is to interlace our fingers and then place them on the solar plexus, which is above the navel. And there's a vowel sound that goes with this in the monographs, and you can intone that vowel sound if you're familiar with it. But even if you don't know the vowel sound, you can just gently just focus on your breath. Have your hands there over the solar plexus. And any vowel sound that we intone that has the M sound is relaxing. So you can just hum or intone. I guess you can't intone, but just hum the M sound while you're focusing on your breath and you have your fingers interlaced over your solar plexus. Mm. And drop your hands and just be aware of your inner state, how you're feeling. All right. Here's our next question. How long does it take for a soul to reincarnate? And how could we identify people we met on a previous incarnation during the current one? According to the Rosicrucian tradition, there is 144 years between our birth and our next birth. So if we live for 80 years and we reincarnate after 144 years, 64 years later, we would be born again. So the soul personality reincarnates every 144 years. And this is approximate. H. Spencer Lewis wrote a book in 1930 called Mansions of the Soul, and it's really the definitive book on reincarnation. And he addresses what happens between incarnations. And this book is available on rosicrucian.org, and up at the top it says texts, and that's where we have all the Rosicrucian Digest magazines. The forum is in the members only section because that's for members only, but the Rosicrucian Digest, all of our books. So this book is available there for free, Mansions of the Soul. And here's what he says about the period between incarnations. Immediately upon transition, the soul and ego of the individual separate gradually from the body. Then the soul and ego are drawn upward into the spiritual or cosmic realm, and there remain until the time comes to descend again toward the earth plane to enter into a newborn body. The purpose of these intervals between incarnations is to permit the ego to purify itself further and become illumined by the divine mind and cosmic wisdom. It is like a period of rest and relaxation between hours of daily labor. It is refreshment for the soul and personality, and is strength to the spiritual powers of the divine faculties of the soul. While these egos of departed personalities are existing on the cosmic plane, they maintain the dominant nature of the last personality expressed on Earth. It is not until the soul and ego enters into a new body for another incarnation on Earth that the name of the last personality is laid aside and the dominant characteristics are placed in the background and new ones formed. The personalities dwell in preparation for reincarnation and receive knowledge and divine help which purge them of their errors for which they have made repentance, which they have freely confessed. This bathes them with new effulgence so that they are more evolved and more highly developed for their new mission in life. A man named Henry Van Dyke, who lived in Pennsylvania, he was born in 1852 and passed on in 1933, wrote a poem called Gone from My Sight. And this poem expresses perfectly the Rosicrucian view of what Rosicrucians call transition. We use the word transition for what a lot of people call death. It's a transition from the plane we're on now to whatever happens next. And here is Gone from My Sight. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until, at length, she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she is gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large on mast, hull, and spar as she was when she left my side. and she is just as able to bear her load, excuse me, of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, "There, she is gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "Here she comes!" And that is dying. The Rosicrucian teachings encourage us to start studying now what we want to experience in our next life. So if you want to be a musician and maybe haven't learned that up till now, start learning music or going to musical involve yourself with music. Anna Mary Robertson Moses, who was known as Grandma Moses, was an American folk artist who started painting when she was 78 years old. Before that, she had made needlework pictures and quilts showing colorful scenes of farm life. And then, when she was 78 years old, arthritis made it impossible for her to do that needlework. So her friend suggested that she try painting these scenes instead. She exhibited her work internationally until into her 90s, and she painted until a few months before her transition at the age of 101. So if there is something that you want to do in your next life, get on it now. Again, maybe you'll start reading about it or practicing it or volunteer doing it or joining a club that's interested in it. But just think for a moment, what's something that you would like to experience in your next incarnation? Okay. And is there any reason that you can't start doing it right now? Not just preparing yourself, but if this is something you really want to do, maybe set a goal for yourself that within 24 hours, you are somehow going to connect with this. So the other part of this question was, how can we identify people that we knew in a previous life? And I think some people just have that feeling. Some people, when they're young especially, will remember instances of their previous life. There's been a lot of research on people, especially children, who can remember the situation of their previous life, people they knew. So there are some of those, maybe we would call them uncommon experiences, and just open yourself up if maybe there's some way to know who you shared previous life experiences with. You may know that when a Dalai Lama is chosen, part of the process is for they find a child, and they find a child, um, well, with the current Dalai Lama, one of the High Lamas was meditating, and he saw this village with a house in it. So in this, he was at the Oracle Lake, and he had this vision. He saw a village and a house, and they went there, and they showed this 2-year-old boy some objects that had belonged to the previous Dalai Lama, and he was able to identify the ones that were familiar to him. So there are other traditions that use a similar process. And there are no lessons in the Rosicrucian teachings for knowing who in our current life we may have shared our previous life with, but there is an exercise to try to view some details about our previous life. And when I practiced this lesson from the monographs, I received two numbers that didn't really mean anything to me. And then I thought, what if these are like, because I was trying to figure out where I had lived. And I thought, what if this is longitude and latitude? So I looked at a globe and it was a location in Scotland. So I don't know if that was where I'd lived in a previous life or not, but um, there's an exercise to help bring up memories from a previous life. Here's our next question. When we rise to the celestial sanctum, are we expected to do so and visualize it every time we meditate? So this is up to you. Sometimes you can project your consciousness more quickly to the celestial sanctum. It's not you. We do not need to attune with the celestial sanctum every time we meditate. It's most effective if all the circumstances are right around us. It's most effective if we practice exercises and meditations like this in our sanctums. You know how this is when you enter an area, not only have we built up the vibrations by doing our mystical work repeatedly in our sanctums, which is a place that we set aside just for our mystical work. We don't do homework, we don't watch television there, we don't do business work there. So we're building the vibrations there, but also we're training our whole self. If you enter a place that's meant for a certain activity, you're able to connect with it more quickly. So if you're able to go to your sanctum and even do the celestial sanctum meditation to start your meditation period, that will probably be more effective for you. And it's not absolutely necessary. If you want to meditate and maybe you don't have time to go to your sanctum or time to do the full celestial sanctum meditation, that's okay. You can even do the where we ascend to the celestial sanctum, that exercise, you can do it more quickly than you might do it if you're in your sanctum and have time available. But one, you can meditate anywhere, anytime. Of course, not while driving. You can meditate anywhere, and it doesn't require you to do a lot of preparation. You can begin meditating just by closing your eyes and focusing on your breath as it goes in and out of your nostrils. And you may find it much more effective to go to your sanctum, and when you have the time, to do the celestial ascent meditation where you attune with the celestial sanctum. So there's more to this question. I'm currently facing a persistent problem that significantly affects my life, and it seems permanent. I've already meditated on this issue within the celestial sanctum. In this case, would it be beneficial to continue meditating on the problem persistently? What advice would you give for solving this issue by using Rosicrucian methods? The first thing that comes to mind is there anything you can do on the material plane? Sometimes we postpone achieving something because we want it just handed to us because we visualized it in our sanctum but didn't do anything on the earthly plane. So one question would be, is there anything you can do where you can move toward a resolution of this? For example, if it's a financial issue, can you get a second job? Can you work with an entity to see if you might be able to refinance something? If it's a relationship, can you make amends with the person? Or can you seek counseling? So see if there's something tangible that you can do. Don't just think the celestial sanctum is going to take care of an issue when there's something that you can do on the earthly plane to resolve it. And if you're going to continue to go to the celestial sanctum, maybe broaden your perspective on the issue. So again, if the let's say the issue is financial. Broaden how the resolution to that might benefit other people too, might benefit your community. So if you're running into a roadblock, see if you can expand your awareness of what a resolution to a challenge, in what ways it might benefit other people. Then we had another question related to the celestial sanctum. Okay, why do we call the celestial sanctum celestial? Does celestial refer to above, as above, so below, like everything or something outside the physical plane? Does the celestial sanctum exist on the astral plane or the dream world, as shamans call it? In such a case, attuning to the celestial actually turns into an astral projection exercise. Or is it more like an illusion we picture, a mind trick we do that helps us reach a better meditative state? A place in our minds where we can go to find shelter from outside noise so we can better think, affirm, and meditate. How real is the celestial sanctum? And if it is real, where is it and what is it? I know members who have experienced it in both ways, both as an actual place where they astrally projected to, and as a frequency or plane of consciousness. So who knows? The Rosicrucian teachings, when the monographs introduce the celestial sanctum, it states that it is not strictly speaking a place. And it states, we attune with the highest plane of spirituality, the highest field of cosmic energy possible. And since this is abstract, like how do you visualize the highest frequency, the highest plane of spirituality? Since it's abstract, we use something that represents that to help us attune with that frequency. So instead of projecting to the astral plane, perhaps we are attuning with that frequency. The celestial sanctum name was given by Ralph Lewis. H. Spencer Lewis had created this meditation, and he called it the Cathedral of the Soul. And then when Ralph Lewis became imperator, he changed the name to the Celestial Sanctum. And I don't know if it, like a cathedral, is not totally inclusive. Some people wouldn't really relate to a cathedral, but a celestial sanctum is something that we can all relate to. Here's our next question. When we live far away from any lodge and we want to attend a lodge for an initiation only, do we still need to pay dues at that lodge? If so, for just that month or for the year? So, first of all, we encourage you to support the lodge that's nearest you in any case, as you're able. There are never initiation fees. So a Rosicrucian never pays to take an initiation. And different lodges have different amounts of visits that you can have before you're expected to join a lodge. So if you come to a lodge every month, a lodge may say, it's reasonable that you would be part of the group and participate and become an official member. And often there are minimal dues for that. But it's up to each lodge on what the minimum number of times per month is that you would visit before you would be expected to join the lodge, and not just to pay dues. All of the affiliated bodies depend on members serving that group. So without members helping in every way, the affiliated bodies won't exist. And if you benefit from an affiliated body, for example, by having your initiation conferred there, it would be really helpful to that group to support it in some way. Okay, the next question is about lucid dreams. For one who experiences heightened senses during lucid dreams, in which they are fully aware they are dreaming, why does the reality in these dreams seem just as real or even more real than waking life? So, the same brain regions active during waking life, including those involved in processing sensory information and memory, are also active during lucid dreams. So this overlap in brain activity contributes to the feeling of realism. So it's the same part of your brain that's working as when you're awake. A Rosicrucian perspective says that lucid dreaming happens when you're neither fully awake nor completely asleep. And neuroscientists don't really know why or how this occurs, but they have some theories. Research has shown that people who experience lucid dreams have physical differences in their brains. Specifically, the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for tasks like decision-making and memory recall, tends to be larger. So scientists have found that people with a larger prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making and memory recall, if that part of the brain is larger, they tend to experience lucid dreaming more. This suggests that individuals who are more self-reflective and frequently analyze their thoughts may be more likely to have vivid dreams. Additionally, a disruption in your normal sleep cycle, particularly during REM, rapid eye movement sleep, could increase the chances of lucid dreaming. But there are other factors that may have an effect. Nobody really knows definitively what causes what allows us to have lucid dreams. And in the Rosicrucian Digest #2 of 2021, Julian Johnson wrote a really interesting article called Meditations on Expanding Our Awareness, Lucid Waking, and its suggestions on how we can be more aware of the world around us. Next question. What, if any, is the connection between the Book M and the Voynich manuscript? The Book M is the Liber Mundi. In Latin, Liber is book and Mundi is world. So it's the book of the world, and it shares the philosophy and thoughts of Paracelsus, a man who lived from 1493 to 1541. Paracelsus was a Swiss physician, alchemist, and philosopher of the German Renaissance. He was a pioneer in several aspects of the medical revolution of the Renaissance. And really, his work overturned the previous system of medical practice that had a lot of challenges with it. And he emphasized the value of observation in combination with received wisdom. His philosophy states that nature is the key to everything in existence, that it is not a mechanical system of laws. So nature is not a mechanical system of laws, but a living reality with which humanity may enter into a dialogue for the purpose of co-birth. So Paracelsus studied the world around him, and when he worked with his patients, they used natural remedies that created a cooperation between nature and the person who needed healing. Now, the Voynich manuscript is dated to the early 1400s or 1500s. So this could be before the time of Paracelsus. It was in the library of the Emperor Rudolph II, who was the patron of many scientists and authors associated with the Rosicrucians in the early 1600s. And then this manuscript was discovered in 1912 by a rare book stealer whose name was Wilfrid Voynich. So that's why the Voynich manuscript has that name. That was hundreds of years later, 1912. This book expert, this rare book stealer, found this book. And in 1969, the book was donated to Yale University's Rare Books and Manuscript Library. And here's a little bit about this manuscript from Yale's website. Written in Central Europe at the end of the 15th or during the 16th century, the origin, language, and date of the Voynich manuscript are still being debated as vigorously as its puzzling drawings and undeciphered text. So nobody's sure of the history or the meaning of the book. Described as a magical or scientific text, every page contains botanical, figurative, and scientific drawings of a provincial but lively character, drawn in ink with vibrant washes in various shades of green, brown, yellow, blue, and red. So the mystery continues about the Voynich manuscript, and then whether or not there's a connection with the Liber Mundi, the Book of the World that's associated with Paracelsus. All right, next. Is it possible that the Atlantis that Plato wrote about is really the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete, and that the cataclysm described by the Egyptian priest was caused by the volcanic eruption on Santorini? So no one knows for sure. And in the Rosicrucian tradition, we suggest that Atlantis existed as a primordial tradition, whether it was really an island that sank or not is difficult to say, but that there was a civilization in the past. That's what Atlantis is. And many people say that that primordial tradition then shared its wisdom with other traditions that became philosophies and religions that we're familiar with. In the Rosicrucian tradition, we suggest that Mount Pico in the Azores is the last remnant of the submerged continent of Atlantis. And that Atlantis, this advanced civilization, knew that a cataclysm was coming and sent emissaries to different places around the world, including Egypt. So they were in place when a big disaster occurred. And some people see this as an explanation for how Egypt seemed to have a very sudden advance in its civilization. The end of Atlantis, according to a number of traditions, and Plato writes about this, and it's that technology became too advanced for the maturity of the human race and caused resulting in a great cataclysm. So perhaps it's just allegorical, perhaps Atlantis really existed somewhere. We have an entire issue of the Rosicrucian Digest that focuses on Atlantis. We created 17 issues of the Rosicrucian Digest providing information about different traditions that have most contributed to the Rosicrucian tradition today. So the first issue was in 2006, and all of these issues are available online on rosicrucian.org. So the first one is Atlantis, and then we have ancient Egypt and the Essenes, and it goes through the history in Greece, Eleusis and Delphi, and so it comes up to through Martinism and the Rosicrucian Order. And the purpose of this series of Rosicrucian Digest is to provide a handbook of materials on those subjects. So if you're interested in Kabbalah, we gathered together what we thought would be the most helpful resources to get you started. So if you read the Kabbalah issue, you may be interested in learning more about what's presented in the article on the 231 Gates meditation, or on different aspects of Kabbalah, or on alchemy. We present important sources so that you can do more research on your own. So we really were very excited to provide these resources. They're a compendium of what we think are the most helpful resources if you want to learn more about one of those subjects. And again, there are 17 issues, starting with issue number 2 in the year 2006, and they continue up until the year 2014. So that concludes our questions and answers for this month. Thank you so much for participating.